If you are told that your skin is ugly, your race is ugly, why would you want to be a part of that? And that narrative is also communicated by some of your very own black people. So why you don't want that? Nobody don't want that. I want to step away from that as fast as possible, as quickly as possible. And so we're going to be talking about that and more this afternoon. And I want to get your feedback and your opinion on what has been happening around the world regarding these statues, and should these statues that represent colonialism and that slave owning history that is here and that is often overlooked, should those statues be removed? And if I want you to also tell me, which black man or woman would you rather see being a statue, having a statue? There are many black women and men who have contributed to the development of this country and this nation, and yet they're not spoken about. They die and their memories die with them. But yet, Christopher Columbus,
Have many buildings,
yeah,
many statues.
Columbus Heights, and the place when name after the people them. You understand? The overseer them and the governor them and the people them and them wife. Who never were ignorant for the rich black people them. George Stibel and Lady Musgrave, because she couldn't stand to see the rich black man, the first millennium. She couldn't stand it.
Make a man build a road for her.
Build a road for get around. Should we? And I've seen the petitions and we've seen the discussion, and we want to talk about it right here on Miss Kitty Live. I have two very educated, knowledgeable, wise individuals who have experience with this topic and with this issue, and they're going to help to guide us with it this afternoon. But I want to get your thoughts and how you feel about the statues of slave owners, colonial masters being removed, being toppled, and should we also do the same in Jamaica so that we can highlight and give proper credence to those who really deserve it and not put on pedestals those who would have oppressed us, raped and murdered our ancestors, and be lauded and applauded for doing committing such atrocities. You're listening to Nationwide 90 FM. This is Miss Kitty Live.
That's the way it's going to be. Miss Kitty Live, sizzling every day. You can't exit.
Nationwide 90 FM, it is the voice of Robert Nesta Marley on your radio on a pleasant afternoon like this. I gotta tell you, good afternoon to all the persons celebrating their birthday today, all the persons celebrating their anniversary, all the persons celebrating the fact that they are black, a member of the Negroid race, the persons who are feeling great about their race, what we have accomplished, but also understand that there is much to be done and we have to work on ourselves and we have to know our history so that we can move forward in a meaningful way, in a purposeful way, and in a way that will make a difference. Not just a hashtag, but a lifestyle. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Miss Kitty Live with your Fluffy Diva and DJ Calico, going all the way until 5 o'clock. Now, I know normally, customarily, when you hear that sound or that song with Bob Marley, you're thinking, oh, talking history is gonna start with Professor Vereen Shepherd right here on Nationwide 90 FM. And by the way, Talking History is aired on a Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I must tell you, it is one of those shows that, it edifies you in a way that Yafa said, Jano Star, wow, really great, lots of great information, and entertainment and education must meet, because it cannot just be about the frivolity and they jump up and the dancing. We have to know where I come from so we will know where we're going. And when you have a great idea of self and a great sense of self, it will also help to motivate the confidence, the self-esteem, and the self-worth, so we don't allow ourselves to be used and abused. So we have Professor Vereen Shepherd online, as well as Professor Clinton Hutton, my two very special guests right here on Miss Kitty Live this afternoon. Lady and gentlemen, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, Clinton. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Very well. Thank you so very much for coming on. I'm honored to be in such esteemed presence of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and educators who have been educating Jamaica and Jamaicans and the world for many years. And I'm so very happy to have you on Miss Kitty Live this afternoon. Professor Vereen Shepherd, Shepard, I will start with you. In terms of, what has been happening around the world, we see, all the protests being sparked by the murder of George Floyd, in whose neck a police officer kneeled down in his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Seeing all of that happening and the years of the pain, the years of anger, years of discrimination spilled over in a way that, many have never seen before. It started in the United States. It spread like wildfire all across the world. As far as Iraq, people are protesting the inequality, the indignancies that are being faced by people of minority, and of course people of the Negroid race. The protests have manifested into riots. And some persons are for, some persons are against. But some people say when we were kneeling peacefully, nobody listened. And so if it means that fire has to cause the purification, well, so be it. As Malcolm X said, by any means necessary. Some persons have also now started to topple the statues of colonial figures, slave masters, as we spoke about Edward Colson in Bristol. And of course, Columbus's head on a statue was taken off in Boston. Are you surprised? Are you happy? How do you feel about what is going on and what is manifesting regarding the issue of race in the world right now? Professor Shepard? All right, so I'm not hearing Professor Shepard. I don't know what is wrong with these lines. I'll play. Professor Hutton, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. It's raining.
Cats and dogs. Yes.
I can't even hear myself.
Oh, wow. All right. Do I need to speak a little louder?
No, you're good.
Okay.
It's very, very heavy.
All right, very well. Well, while we're waiting on Professor Shepard, let me just put it to you, sir. As you heard the preface just now, what are your thoughts on what is going on? Is it long overdue? What is going on?
Well, I don't know if it's long overdue. The time will come. I mean, and for those who have been involved in struggles from the time of many generations around, at some point, the day would have had to come when what is happening in the world now is manifesting itself.
Yes.
Jamaica, for example, has had 468 years of colonial rule. 468.
Yes.
And in these 468 years of colonial rule, 330 of them were years of enslavement.
Yes.
And we have had independence. August coming will just be 58 years. So, colonial rule in Jamaica, the rule of Europeans in Jamaica over native Jamaicans, First Nation people, the Taínos, who were exterminated. First set of genocide that took place in Jamaica. And then Africans. There were about 1 million Africans who were taken here by 1807.
Yes.
And in 1838, at emancipation, just over 300,000 remained. The population was incapable of reproducing itself as a result of enslavement and its brutality. So, from that time to independence, it's foreign rule.
Yes.
They set the standard for what we think, what we believe,
what we wear, what we eat.
What is law, what is beauty.
Yes.
And all of those things. And so, the power from 1962, what they were actually doing, without even referring to it, because some didn't want to, because of fear. But what they were doing was to clear up the colonial mess.
Yes.
The education system that we inherited, the health system that we inherited, the housing system that we inherited, the psychological structure and infrastructure that we inherited, the mess of enslavement. That is what we have been doing on our own. Because we were not compensated
Yes.
for what happened. Working for over 11 generations without pay, unable to send to our descendants, our children, our children's children, the fruits of our labor. Yet, when slavery ended, the slaveholders,
Yes, we're compensated. Yes.
in fact, the British government borrowed money to pay them for what they consider to be the loss of their stock. That British government was only able to repay the debt for what they borrowed to pay the slave masters. In 5 years ago,
Wow.
in Jamaica, people were forced to eat human excrement because they were what I call rituals of desecration of the black body.
Wow.
The reason why you have these rituals of desecration and sacrificial killings was to change the psychological makeup of the people so they no longer believe in themselves
Yes.
as human beings. And therefore, if they don't regard themselves as human beings, then they will not struggle to free themselves.
Yes.
Because there's nothing to be free.
Yes.
They are of no value.
They're of no worth.
Why fight to free this?
Yes. Why fight to free nothing? Because I'm a nothing.
Precisely.
Yes. Reduced to nothing.
Right?
Yes.
So these are the things that we have inherited.
Yes.
And it's not just in Jamaica. It's all over the Americas. In South America. In North America. And what is happening in the United States today is precisely as a result of the unbroken succession of different oppressive regimes rooted in white supremacy, rooted in the notion that white people are superior to black people and everybody else, that they have the inherent right to rule, and that they have the inherent right to command and oppress other people as servants to them.
Let me get in.
That's what has been happening. It
Yes.
has never stopped, unbroken.
Yes.
And
Well,
so, when the killing of George
Floyd
took place, it is not that it's the first time you have such. It's a form of lynching. Lynching has always been a part of the United States social, political, and psychological complex. But what happened in this case is that a 17-year-old girl stood up and photographed.
yes. Video recorded. Yes.
In such a way that nobody has ever seen.
Yeah, you saw a man lose his life. A man was murdered in front of your eyes. You literally watched it. You know when you hear about certain things and you hear say, but to see it with your own eyes playing out in front of you, it was just so traumatic.
In all its entirety.
Yeah.
Because there have been other videotapes of these things happening.
Yes.
Right? But what happened is that there are a number of things. I don't think we can separate what has happened to this man, which is a sacrificial killing.
Yes.
Because in our history, black people were taught to be the sacrificial Christ. That their duty in the world was to sacrifice themselves for the glory and prosperity of white people.
Yes.
They were taught that. So when this man was being killed, being lynched, you hear him saying he can't breathe.
Yes.
But you also hear the police saying to him to get up and go in the vehicle when they knew very well that he can't.
Yes.
It's like when Christ was on the cross, you tell him to come off. Right?
Yes.
No, these things are very powerful.
Yes.
It was jeering him. Now, what has happened is that with this pandemic, more people were able to see this thing almost when it happened. People who were in their
Busy.
houses
Yes.
because they have to be in their houses
Yes.
because of social distancing were able to see that.
Yes.
Not only that they were able to see that, they have had 3.5 years of Trump, and many white people have now come to the conclusion that Trump and his attitude to the pandemic and other things before that, all his racist statements, that they also put American democracy, including the interests of white people, on the line.
Yes.
And that is why what is taking place in the United States is taking place. And because of what the United States is, that lead is then followed around the world. In Britain, in Germany, in France, in Africa, and so on.
Yes. Let me get Professor Shepard in, Professor Houghton. I got to tell you, we're talking this afternoon. We're having Black conversations this afternoon with Professor Vereen Shepard, director for the Center of Reparations Research at the University of the West Indies and host of Talking History. Also, you're hearing the voice of Professor Clinton Houghton, professor of Caribbean Political Philosophy, Culture and Aesthetics, and the director of the Institute of Technological and Educational Research at Micro University. Professor Shepard, are you there?
I am here. I don't know what happened before, but streaming and phone lines and so on. But glad to be back.
No problem. Glad to be back and glad to be black. And you're right here on Miss Kitty Live. Professor Shepard, as you heard the discourse between, with Professor Houghton, talking about all that is happening around the world right now, the toppling of, statues of slave owners, persons who would have become very wealthy off the backs of blacks all across the world. Is it a time? Is it the time now for us to stand up as the Negroid race? Are you surprised by this? How are you processing all of what is happening?
I'm not surprised by it because I should tell you that I'm a member of the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination at the United Nations, in addition to all the other things that I do. And every year, several states come before us, and we question them about how they are dealing with racial discrimination. What are they doing to eliminate racial discrimination? But along with the state party comes the representatives of the civil society organizations and the people themselves who have felt discriminated against. And if you look at all these reports from around the world, from I don't know how many countries we have investigated, from New Zealand to Australia, Asia, Latin America, Caribbean not so much yet, but North America, Europe, everywhere, it's the same complaint. So I'm not surprised that this is now a joined up global black liberation movement, and people are saying, like Marlon James's Night Women in his book about the book of Night Women, enough don't be enough.
Yes.
And Clinton spoke about some of the reasons why people are saying we can't take any more.
Yes, get up off our necks.
Of the history of exploitation. And women in particular, you see the number of women who are going out there. And because people think about the history of the butter bruising of our women.
Yes.
And, and the lynching that took place in our own space as well. Right across the colonized world, they use flogging, long prison sentences, deportation, lynching, hanging.
Yes.
So many people. Clinton will tell you about the Morant Bay War and the number of people who were hanged. But look at the war that Sam Sharp led, the war that Chief Techi led, and the hundreds of people they hang all over Jamaica. And even missionaries were involved in the oppression of our people. You will like this, Kitty, because I've been following the story of a Miss Kitty,
Yes.
Jamaica. Miss Kitty was owned by Reverend Bridges on the North Coast, they sent, and Bridges tell her that she was, in the house working as a domestic, enslaved domestic, and Bridges tell her, say, "Me having a visitor, cook the turkey tonight." Then the visitor decide not to come. Bridges don't tell Kitty, and Kitty still cook the turkey. Come in the kitchen, sit, Kitty set in the table and the turkey nice, and where you cook the turkey for? But you tell me to cook the turkey. But the person now come again, and Kitty say, "But you never tell me." How dare her talk back to him? For that, the man go sharpen bamboo, or order somebody to sharpen bamboo stick, and take the sharpened bamboo stick and beat the girl until. These are the kinds of things. And then that reprobate someone, Sis Lord, who buried in Savlamar there,
Yes.
raped so many women in Jamaica and treated enslaved men so brutally. So I think that people are now thinking back in their own spaces. The indigenous peoples are rising up, First Nation people, African people, people who are marginalized, and everyone is saying Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
And so this is what we're seeing. And of course, in our space, we have had, from the moment of conquest, people have, in Jamaica and the Caribbean, they have never accepted the white supremacist ideology. They have struggled against it forever. And wars of resistance have characterized our history. And so the tearing down of statues is an expression
Yes.
of how fed up we are in some cases in Jamaica, maybe you don't have to pass these monuments, so they exist. But imagine in other places like the UK and the USA, that young black children have to pass these people who they put up on pedestal and say you must celebrate them.
Yeah.
Because why would you put them up if it's not people you are telling us
Yes.
icons
Are
that we
worthy.
celebrate?
Yes. Yes.
And you know that these very people, like
Are reprobates.
and Robert Milligan and Columbus and King Leopold,
Right. The second.
oppressed the people in the Congo. You know.
Yes. Henry Dundas.
Oppressed your ancestors, and you must worship them.
Yeah. But Professor
That's why they're
Shepard.
taking them down.
But Prof, that's and that's and this leads to my next question, because these persons have committed so many atrocities, and yet their statues have been posted or has been hoisted for years. Why has it taken until now or 2020 for them to be removed? And right now it's not even the government removing them, it is the protesters taking it up on themselves to do so. So why have successive governments have not removed them?
Because they haven't listened to people. It's years now in the Caribbean, for example, that people are saying, what is Queen Victoria statue doing in our space?
Yes, well, we have a Queen Victoria Park.
It used to be Queen Victoria Park. They name it, whose park is it again? Downtown. St. William Grand Park.
Yes.
But Queen Victoria is still there. Not one monument, not one statue of St. William Grant is in that park. You only hear St. name St. William Grant Park. But Queen Victoria is there. And Queen Victoria is in Guyana. Queen Victoria is all over the Caribbean. And people have been missed because they are not studying their history. They have, a lot of people have inherited this myth that Queen Victoria set us free. Not so.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, her reign started in 1837. The Emancipation Act was passed in 1833. So it is, and we keep feeding our children with these kinds of myths. But what I reject is the arguments I've heard. Don't take them down, because if you take them down, how will our children, how will future generations know their history? Then look how long them up. And anybody studies history.
And we'll know because we'll read it. And then you have the oral tradition where people talk, and that is how we know. And so they don't have to be on a pedestal to be remembered. And they must not be remembered as being figures on a pedestal. They must be remembered for what the atrocities that they committed against a race for hundreds of years. All that thought?
Sometimes be now and look and go and stand up and read what is written on the Columbus monument there. There is nothing about what he did to the Taino people.
Yes.
What happened in the aftermath of the invasion?
All right, Professor
What
Shepard,
happened
hold.
when you were shipwrecked in Jamaica and frightened the poor Taino them on the North Coast?
I want you to hold your thought because we're up on the news right now. We're talking to Professor Vereen Shepard and Professor Clinton Hutton this afternoon. We're having black conversations about the removal of statues and monuments that have been erected in Jamaica and the world that commemorate, men who and women who raped, murdered, pillaged, pilfered, killed a lot of people of African descent and gained a lot of their wealth off the backs of Africans. And we're talking about that and more right here on Miss Kitty Live on a Pepper Seed Thursday.